Hey kids of the Annex, welcome. It's me again, Tama. Can't get rid of me that easily. I want to start off by showing you this picture that Micah sent in of himself all set up in a little green tent in preparation to watch the Annex online. But most significantly, I want you to notice the trumpet that he brought into the tent with him so that he could play along with our opening song, "The Spirit in Me greets the Spirit in you." So run, grab your instruments, and sing along with Abigail and Oliver. So I want you to remember that if you're looking for the music or the chords to that opening song, you can find them through a link on the church website. Okay, we're going to continue right along with our spiritual practice. And you'll see that I've got a shelf with our baskets set up now in the Annex online studio here. So let me reach up and get that. And our practice this week is connection. Do you guys remember what the exercise is that gets us connected? Like connected to what, you might say, and with good reason. And we have a bit of a clue here. Remember in the basket, we had some things that will maybe tip us off to what we're trying to connect with. A pine cone. And a shell, piece of bark with some sort of sage-colored moss on it. So it's the earth that we're trying to connect with, wanting to connect with, reconnect with. We are of the earth. We come from the earth as humans, and connecting to the earth is one of the most significant ways to stay grounded and connected spiritually. So here are the instructions for how this exercise works. It says, let's go outside to the back lawn of the church and garden area. Okay, we've already got a problem because we aren't at the church. So I'm going to encourage you to just go outside, maybe around your house. If you live in a house, maybe a garden or lawn there. If you're up in an apartment, maybe it's looking out a window or stepping out on your deck and seeing what's close at hand there. And then, and this part is important, it says, be in silence for 3 minutes. Look around, find something in creation or nature that catches your attention. Look at it for a moment. Why is it interesting to you? What is curious about it? Or beautiful even? Maybe it's not beautiful. Maybe it's kind of disgusting. Sometimes decaying and dying things, which are part of the natural world, can strike us as a little bit, ugh. Regardless, pick it up. If it's something small and not attached, like say a leaf or a twig or a flower or something, and bring it back to the classroom. Or you could bring it back into your home, show your family. Or if it's too big, like say a tree or something, then we just describe it to whoever's around you. So let's take a moment and do that now. Remember, 3 minutes, silence, looking at the natural world around you, finding something that catches your attention. Okay, are you back? What did you find? I'll show you what I found. Can anybody recognize those blossoms? You might have some outside of your own house, especially if you have a gardener in the family, especially if you have a fruit gardener in the family, because those are apple blossoms. And each of these buds, each of these blossoms will become a little piece of fruit. When you see blossoms on an apple tree, that's the first stage of the fruit production. So I could get 5, that's quite a few, 5 or 6 little apples all on this one stem, which would be a lot of weight for that stem, and the apples probably wouldn't get very big. So what fruit growers often do is they remove the smaller of the blossoms. I'm no expert, so someone might correct me exactly on how this is done. And I think you leave actually the biggest blossom, or the one that looks the most healthy. So I've taken off all those little buds, and now there's just the one left, and that will leave me with one big full apple at the end of the season. Okay, I'd love to see a picture or drawing of something that you found out on your connection walk with the natural world. We're going to move on with our story. I'm going to dig out our scroll. I think it's Madeline was supposed to be the keeper of the scrolls this time around. So if you were here, Madeline, you could be reaching for the scroll. Again, it's the Gospel of John. And I'm going to take that string off and set it up on the stand here. Set the pictures up there. You probably can't see them from where you are, but if you look in your children's Bibles, for those of you who have them, it's page 409. We aren't moving very quickly through these stories. We're taking our time in the stories of Easter. And so we're on page 409 again. Now I want to say something about this particular Bible that we've been using to tell these stories. Like most Bibles that are made for children or even youth, there's usually things about them that are really great and some things about them that are really kind of frustrating. And it's hard to find a Bible that has all the best of all of the above. So I'll tell you what I love about this particular Bible and why I selected it to give to you guys earlier this year. I like it because of all the archaeological and historic notes along the bottom of the pages, because those help put the Bible into a historic context. So the Bible isn't just kind of some book that fell from heaven floating free in the universe. It actually comes out of human history along with all the other stories that are part of the history of humans on the earth. So that's one reason, and the main reason I like the way this Bible is laid out. The thing I don't like about it, one thing I don't like, is that almost all the pictures, especially we've noticed it in these weeks after Easter, have just men disciples. It's only as though men disciples were around or were part of the excitement of the resurrected Christ, where in fact we know that the women were the ones who found out in the first place and were definitely at the forefront of the excitement and the ongoing gathering and the the unfolding understanding of what it meant that Jesus was risen from the dead. So you have to imagine, I guess, that the women are there, just not pictured in the story. There was one disciple missing the day Jesus showed up and revealed himself to the others behind closed doors. His name was Thomas, and for whatever reason, we aren't told, he wasn't there that day. Maybe he was out doing some errands or maybe visiting somewhere else. But he wasn't in the room when Jesus showed up. And so when his fellow disciples told him that Jesus had in fact appeared to them, he was quite skeptical. Oh, come on. Really? Is that even possible? He said. He was full of doubts and questions about whether or not such a thing could even happen. And he said, unless I see for myself, I don't believe you. And it happened that 8 days later, where Jesus was all that time, nobody knows. But 8 days later, he appeared a second time to his disciples, who were again hiding behind closed doors for fear of the temple leaders. And Jesus said, "Peace be with you," as he had said before. And he knew of Thomas's doubt, so he turned to Thomas and he said, "Thomas, it is me. Here, touch my hands and feel the nail prints, and touch my side where the spear entered my body." And Thomas touched and was amazed, and he fell to his feet. And the story says that he wept and said, "My Master, my Lord." And Jesus took him by the hand and helped him up and said, "Thomas, you are blessed. You have believed because you have seen. But more blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." So to Thomas, fact-based evidence was important. He wanted to touch, to feel, to see something before he believed it to be true. I think if Thomas lived in our time, he might have been a scientist, because scientists really build the foundation of their knowledge on what can be observed, on what can be measured, on what can be weighed and put into concrete evidence for a theory or a hypothesis. But like so many things of the spirit, things like love or joy, it's hard to measure those things in a scientific way. If I asked you, how much love do you have for your mother or father or brother or sister, it'd be kind of hard to put that on a scale and to weigh it or to judge it. Some scientists try, but it's harder. And even Jesus himself said, "You are blessed because you have seen and believed." But more blessed are those who don't have to see, weigh, measure, touch, and are still able to believe. At least the spiritual life might be a little easier on them or for them. All right, if you had to put a feelings word to any of the characters in the story, maybe especially Thomas, possibly some of the other disciples, which words would you choose? I'm guessing that Thomas maybe felt frustrated because everybody kept saying, "It's true, it's true, it's true." And he just didn't have the evidence he needed to believe it. So I'm going to say frustrated for one of my words. And another, I think maybe his the other followers of Jesus, the other friends in that community, might have been annoyed that he didn't get it. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you know something's to be true, but your friend just doesn't believe it, even though it is true. You've seen it or heard it yourself, and then you get annoyed at your friend. So I'm going to say maybe annoyed. And let's choose a final word for the end of the story. Mostly, I guess, surprised, amazed, because here the impossible seemed to have happened, and Thomas allowed the evidence to speak for itself. All right, our closing song, and you may be disappointed or thrilled to know that we aren't going to use the recording, but that Abigail and Oliver have learned our closing song. So no more British accents, a good old West Coast Canadian accent for singing in the third week of Easter. Be not afraid. Shout out for joy. Christ is risen. Alleluia.
Be not afraid, sing out for joy, Christ is risen, hallelujah. Be not afraid, sing out for joy, Christ is risen, hallelujah.
So you may have noticed that our jars with the rocks in have a special place of prominence in my new studio setup here. And there's a reason for that, because they remind me every day that I come in here that one day we'll all be together again, and hopefully not too far off into the future. In fact, I hope not any further off than the number of rocks that are left in the bottom of this, and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minus 1, 6 weeks. What do you think? Any chance that we'll see each other again in 6 weeks? Here's hoping. Have a good week.